Hello, I'm your friend Dylan. 1, 2, and poof! Your Dylan forgot insecurity and learned confidence instead. If only. Hello and welcome back to Your Friend Who Likes Games. Today I'm going to be talking about Pokemon Lazarus, which is a ROM hack Pokemon game. I've discovered the ROM hack, a little bit of the ROM hack community, or the fact that it exists, and I'm excited to get into my play of Pokemon Lazarus. I'm about 4 badges in, so about halfway through the game, and it's really starting to open up, but we'll get into that a little bit more after the beginning section of the podcast here that I like to call For Your Wishlist. And the For Your Wishlist section of the podcast is your kind of video game hype, your release radar, or just games to think about playing or consider checking out. And I have 3 of them for you today. I've kind of been keeping like a regular list and tab of them, and sometimes I put like 5 in this section, sometimes I put 1, so I think 3 is the way to go, but who knows, it's going to be different every time, and if you listen regularly, you know that I can't seem to keep it consistent here. But here we go. For your wish list, I have 3. One of them I've been hearing good things about, and I've played the demo and I've really liked the way it felt, is Angeline Era. It is a game that looks to kind of celebrate the best of PlayStation 1 kind of top-down 3D platforming and combat, in which you play as this character with a sword that you attack by bumping enemies. So you don't have like an attack button, but instead you quite literally walk up to them and bump into them. And then you have a shoot feature that only shoots completely vertically. You do have a reticle that shows up every now and then that can shoot enemies and things that are across the way, but being that it's like a top-down look to it, like top-down 3D or like 2.5D, if you will, there are things that are on the ground that you have to walk toward and bump and make sure not to take damage from, and then which is interesting to navigate because like you almost have to attack them when they're not attacking you, but it looks to celebrate, I think, the PlayStation 1's like simplicity of combat. It has that kind of graphic fidelity, but in a fairly new way. At least the way it feels is very like modern feeling, and it looks vast. Like it looks to have, and the demo kind of points at this. It has this like vast open world or open area that is like or I should say overworld. Where you're kind of navigating spaces, and then if you hit the triangle button or the upper button, you search for something, and that could be searching for like a level entrance, searching for a secret, searching for a treasure chest, and like you could do this kind of in like any suspicious place, and it just takes a second. So if there isn't anything there, then like a little red square shows up and says like there's nothing there to find. But if there is, then you have this like awesome feeling of like finding something and unlocking, again, a level entrance or some secret of the game. So it kind of constantly has you like searching for stuff and going about these kind of like room by room or space by space 2.5D like encounters where you're facing enemies kind of locked into one square, and then once you defeat them all, you can move on. I think the kind of old school brutality of this game is that like you have to get through a variety of those and through an entire level. There's no like checkpoint through the level necessarily, but I'm willing to bet, and at least when I've played it, I don't know, this is hard to say. It seems like it's going to be fun enough anyway to just keep trying. It felt good on Steam Deck and it felt good to play, but I have to admit that when I did get done with the like a run, or if I died, I should say, then I wasn't really motivated to keep going. And I don't know if that's because I don't own the game and I'm just feeling like I'm trying it out. Maybe if I own it and commit to playing all of it, then I wouldn't mind like retrying over and over again. So I don't know if this would be frustrating. It looks approachable enough and has like a nice balance of difficulty to where, at least the gameplay is pretty transparent in what it's doing. Like the enemy attacks are pretty obvious. So in regards to fairness, it feels fair. But yeah, I don't know. I have been kind of like dipping my toe into the demo over and over again and kind of seeing like when I want to give this a purchase and give it a go. So, potentially coming up soon, give this one a rip and like commit to the actual game. But the demo's been fun and the demo's free. And it seems to be pretty generous in regards to what they give you to play with and giving you the kind of sense of the game. So one to definitely try before buy. And that's Angeline Era. Been hearing good things and I gave it a go, and I can definitely agree that it's unique and cool and like feels really good for someone that's 30 plus that likes this kind of PlayStation 1 style graphic. And if you're younger, I'm curious to know if like you're into this too, this kind of retro look at this point, or is it just like lame? Who knows? Next up is another game I've been hearing a lot of good things about, but I fear the sort of commitment to it just because of the size of it, and that is the 100-line Last Defense Academy. And basically what I've heard from this game is that it is a visual novel that has like some tactics-based gameplay that balances out the visual novelness, has really good narrative story, and a game in which has about like maybe 30 some hours for your first run through. And then after that, apparently really opens up and has 100 different endings in which you can find different branching paths and make different choices and see what happens. And I think that's the draw to it. And it's apparently really, really good. I'm definitely interested. I just think my commitment to it would have to be kind of calculated, or I would have to be ready for it, knowing that this is probably a 100 plus hour game. But from what I'm hearing, it seems pretty easy to like stay with it. It seems pretty gripping. But yeah, with Octopath Traveler on my agenda, kind of slowly pecking at that here and there. Maybe if and when I get through that, this game would be for me, but who knows? That's kind of the feeling right now, at least. But yeah, check out the 100-line Last Defense Academy. It's got an anime vibe to it and is supposed to be really good. I've been hearing good things from some trusted sources in Triple Click and Into the Aether, of course. So yeah, give that a look. And lastly, on the For Your Wishlist section to get warmed up here today, is Eternal Afternoon. This is one that I keep seeing on social media. It's coming out in March of this year, 2026, and it looks to be this kind of says walking simulator, psychological horror, which I could see, maybe story rich, or a game that's really supposed to make you feel. And I think the premise being in this Steam description here says, spend one last afternoon exploring your childhood neighborhood before the world ends at 6:38 p.m. And it seems to be one of those like, what would happen, or what would this like neighborhood look like if everybody knew the world was going to end? Or maybe they don't. It seems like they do. There's this like black hole that's in the sky, so maybe it's assumed. And you kind of walking around, and you see this guy on the street that's got an ear, or at least I'm looking at the trailer. He has like an ear to the ground, and he's like, "Do you hear the heartbeat of time? Like it's coming to an end." And like so. It looks like it could be really weird, and I don't know if it's like run based, where you have it says in the trailer you have 20 minutes, so maybe it's like a 20-minute run of like you start at the same spot and then kind of explore and kind of just decide what to do. Graphics are very like PlayStation 1 era, 3D maybe, or even like early PlayStation 2. And yeah, the visual definitely got my attention, and just the premise, I think, to something that would probably make you feel or think, or somewhere in between where you kind of feel weird playing it. But it's definitely an art piece, and it's got something to say. So I'm curious, and that will be coming out later this year. One to take a look out for. Yeah, that's the For Your Wish List section of the show. And again, that's Angeline Era, The 100 Line, Last Defense Academy, and Eternal Afternoon. All of those will be placed on the show notes in case you forget or in case you don't have the opportunity to write them down right now. But you can check them out there. I'm going to take a quick break, and when I come back, I'm going to talk about Pokemon Lazarus. See you soon. All right, we are back, and I want to provide a little playing context here for Pokemon Lazarus and kind of this like culminating, pointing me right back into Pokemon, really drinking the Kool-Aid as of late. I'm excited about it. I have not played a Pokemon game really until I'd say, or I guess since Pokemon Sword and Shield. And, you know, I kind of been out of it, and, well, no, I've played Arceus, and I should say, like, played fully. Like, I really enjoyed Sword and Shield, and I've been out of it, and I played Arceus, and not my favorite, unfortunately. I just, like, really couldn't invest into it. Like, the story wasn't enough for me. Like, the gameplay loop was great, but I think I recognized, like, quickly that that is just what it is. It's like that little bit of a gameplay loop where you're just consistently catching Pokemon, and for me that's not enough. I'm very much like the environment person, or I need that like you're the bestest trainer in the world pull, and I think that comes from my 1996 Pokemon anime roots. You know, want to be the very best, like no one ever was. But here's all of the things that kind of pointed me here. So first and foremost, I would say like Into the Aether, of course, who I've mentioned a lot recently, piqued my interest in or like brought to my attention that this was even possible. The kind of Pokemon ROM hack community having games that are fan made and, you know, out there and available because they're free and they can't sell them. So because, you know, how things are going with Pal World and how they releasing a game for sale that is clearly a ripoff of Pokemon are in big trouble with Game Freak and, you know, lawsuits and things like that. But that's another story. Into the Aether definitely brought it to my attention, and they're a trusted source, so if they say it's good, I'm interested at least. And not only that, but Chris Plant and the post games episode he did about the beginning of Pokemon with Brendan Bigley from Into the Aether was like another just kind of pointing in that direction, and hearing the origin story of Pokemon and how these guys were just looking for a way to keep this essence of like bug collecting alive, where they were in like these rural areas, and with the kind of Japanese like industrialization of kind of their land, and that mixed with like the computer boom of the like late 70s 80s, they wanted to kind of create something that was like, okay, we're going to keep this thing alive, we're going to keep the essence of this alive, and here comes Pocket Monsters or Pokemon. And they explain it much better than I just did there. That was a brief summary, so definitely check out Post Games if you have the chance. That one was a really great listen about the history of Pokemon. Not only that, but I've been seeing things about Pokopia, and I mentioned that earlier on the show, a game that has this kind of Animal Crossing, Pokemon melding together of, you know, a Ditto that is role-playing as a human that wants to rebuild this area, and again, a very like Animal Crossing kind of way. Looks cool. I've been saving pennies and thinking about getting a Switch 2, and I've heard Scarlet and Violet look really good, and I've seen that Scarlet and Violet look really good on Switch 2, and I think that would be the place I would start playing that game, being that 1996 and 2026 is 30 years of Pokemon, and I was the target demographic for that. My goodness. I mean, I was born in 91, so that hooked my generation pretty quickly. I can't say I dove that deep. I had cards. I, you know, played some of the beginner games. I think I had Pokemon Yellow or Gold. I really would have to ask my mom and see where I was with that. But I think that's what I ended up playing. But regardless, like it's super nostalgic. The show, of course, and then a lot of like contemporary shows. Like my sister and I spent time together over the holiday break, and we watched all of Pokemon Concierge, which was really fun to share with her and my brother-in-law to just kind of sit and enjoy like the essence of Pokemon in that way. And then that has triggered me to get into the Pokemon Horizons show, like a kind of morning cartoon for my wife and I that she enjoys as well, as not a Pokemon person, but at least a tolerable anime, if you will. So yeah, like I, again, been really, really drinking the Kool-Aid. Not only that, but like not discovered, but I've known and I hadn't been to, and being that my sister's into games, in Pokemon, we took a visit to a local Pokemon store that we have where I live here in Ohio, and it's like a Pokemon outlet that has like $300 sets of cards, but like also little keychains and pins and stuff. And yeah, so it's been really cool to, I think, and Chris Plant talks about this too, is that's how Pokemon is so successful, is that it's not just one thing, but it can be everything. It could be everywhere for you, and you could celebrate it in many facets. So it's been cool to play a traditional style Pokemon game with the kind of top-downness, the 8 gyms and multiple cities that you go to, and I've got to say it's probably been like 20 some years since I've played a game like that. So it's been nice to kind of recognize the familiarity of it and kind of dig all that up and recognize, I see this with a lot of, and there are a lot of games that are either getting rehashed or coming back out. And Tony Hawk's the kind of first example I think of here, where like replaying them now, you start to realize like how important those games were to you and are to you, and it just like digs up this part of you that is really exciting and fun to just stay with. So in order to get Pokemon Lazarus on my PC and or Steam Deck, it was easy enough to do. I followed on YouTube Your Retro Gamer, so that's UR Retro Gamer. If you look up them and their instructions of how to get not only the Game Boy Advance emulator on your computer and the ROM hack, really easy to do and get running, like surprisingly easy for someone that is a little, I don't know, not fearful, but just kind of iffy with like downloading weird things like that. I'm showing my age here, but yeah, it's, it was easy. So, and again, like I said, you can't legally sell it, so it's free to play. I don't know if there's a place to donate, but there might be. But I just thought it was so cool that this is a thing, like that someone with passion took and made a Pokemon game that is, again, feels traditional. But then like it's been interesting for someone, again, that isn't as savvy and has not played like every iteration of a Pokemon game, not even close, but has definitely I've had my roots are in it and I've played a few of them. It's been fun to play this game and then look for the things that this person or creator has changed. And the biggest one, I think, right away was that kind of intro hour that a lot of these new Pokemon games have, where you have this like hour-long preamble that is just so like grueling to click through. I remember Arceus was really exhausting, and I wanted to care. I kept like trying to care about the story, and it just didn't seem to hook me. A lot of words up front, and a lot of people skip through that anyway and just get to it. But I don't know, I at least want to give the narrative a try in these kinds of games, even though it's not the best that we've ever seen. But there is a charm to it, I think, that I enjoy. Sword and Shield hit a little bit easier for me with this kind of. We don't have to go through it, but regardless, my point is like it stripped away that it just stripped away that like nonsense at the beginning and like really allowed you to just start. A little bit of a premise. Frankly, I don't remember it. I kind of wish I would have paid more attention. I think I expected it to go on forever. So like the first few lines, I was like, yeah, okay, nice to meet you. See ya. And then like it just got right into it and had you pick your starter. Which in this game, instead of 3 starters, you get to choose from 12, which was like the biggest, most obvious change to start. Some notable ones being like Fuecoco, and I chose Fennekin though, like kind of fiery fox. I thought like that might be my style to get started. I usually like a fire type Pokemon. I feel like at least to start, there's a lot of grass type Pokemon that you go against, and I am not the best with types and matchups, but at least I know that fire takes down grass pretty quickly. But then, as I played, I ended up getting some that I really enjoyed. And I am one that is so, and it's funny, I reference my good friend Josh. He is a dude that is very into like Pokemon Go and is a guy that does the raids and is an ultimate Pokemon trainer. And I am a very vanilla like Pokemon player, and we've talked about this quite often, which is great. And Josh, if you're listening, thank you. Regardless, I am a guy that just kind of goes with the flow of a Pokemon game. Like whoever I catch, I see what their moves are, and if they're interesting, and I keep them in my party. I try to have some variety, so I have some different types, and I just kind of float through it. As a lot of with the Pokemon game, they're not incredibly hard. Like you battle people, and you are kind of one-shotting or two-shotting these Pokemon trainers and their Pokemon. This one, I would say like enough challenge, not like so passive. And I think without the particular setup I have with my Cubone that I'll talk about in a second, I would have just kind of battled, and I think the challenge has been appropriate in regards to scaling, and it doesn't require me to do a whole lot of grinding before a gym, but definitely some considerations. Like I would do a couple of loops before like in the wild area to kind of build up my Pokemon stats before, or like I would even fail like a couple of the gyms. I think like the third one I may have in this one, but yeah, like it's again not unmotivating, but I would say enough, and enough to be motivating, I think is important. But anyway, like thinking of the look of this game in the start, like I said, preamble goes away real quick and you just kind of jump right in. You get to a wild area quickly with your starter Pokemon and can start catching quickly. And the look and aesthetic is nostalgic. I never played like a Game Boy Advance era Pokemon game. I know my sister was probably into those more than I was. I definitely played Pokemon Color games, which have a little bit of a different look. And it's not my favorite art style here. I like the top-downness, but it works. It's enough. And I would say the music and the sounds are definitely there. Like those are very authentic and feel and are very Pokemon music, especially the battle music and the capture music or the I Beat That trainer music is right there and nostalgic and awesome. Which is pretty traditional throughout all the games anyway, but it's just nice to have and make it not feel so different. And I think that's one of the biggest surprises of this game is that it just feels like a Pokemon game. Like it doesn't feel like a off-brand or side project, or it doesn't feel like something I have to tolerate. Like it feels legitimate, and that's been really nice. So not my favorite art style in like the overworld, but I am playing it on a Steam Deck, and I'm willing to bet like people that have picked this up or emulate it like on a smaller handheld. I know the handhelds are like a really big thing. That could be really cool, I think, to just have, and like especially something like pocketable to where like you just boot it up and play it. Like it almost sounds ideal, like how to play this. But yeah, I've been playing on Steam Deck, and you have to play in desktop mode. You got to click it open and double click it to go full screen, and it's so it's not that big of a deal, but in regards to quality of life, it just kind of lightly annoying to get going, and then you're in it, and saving, of course, is always like a fear, but I will say that the save had no problem like staying. But I know that there has been warnings, and check this out if you're one of these people. Like a lot of folks like to either fast forward through like the battle sequences, like you can set, and your retro gamer shows you how to do this. You can kind of set the fast forward buttons on your emulator, and you can fast forward through the battles, and you can also or at least make them faster, and you can fast forward through time because there's certain times that certain Pokemon come out. So in the game it has a in-game time where you're in the middle of the night or it's the morning, and some people like to do that, and they had warned that saves might get weird because of that. So I'm not entirely sure how that works, but just a warning of something that I read if you are one of those folks. But I did really like aesthetically the battle pixel arts and sprites. I thought were really good. I think it works. It's old school feeling, but also like got the kind of like a fresh new colorness to it. Game Boy Advance era. Again, not as familiar with that, but I've enjoyed it enough. And I think again the music really tells a story with the various towns that you go to. I don't know if that music was ripped or if this person wrote any of their own music to go along with some of the towns and places that you go to, but as you know, in Pokemon games, each city has its own flavor, and the music really has something to do with that alongside the visual, especially in regards to my memory of each of these places. So yeah, and in regards to sounds too, I made a note of the OG Pokemon menu click sound is there, the catch sounds are there, victory sounds music, of course, it's all there, and again makes it feel legitimate. And I gotta say, familiar feels good. The kind of I last year chased so many new things, and as of right now, I've been a little burnt out of that, but just kind of playing things I know that I'm going to like, and it feels cool to play a Pokemon game and have it be traditional. Pokemon games have a very unique, or not unique, very set structure to them, where you are playing one area at a time. You work your way through a wild area knowing that you're going to end up at a town or a city. That town or a city will have a mart and a Poké Center that you can get your supplies from at the mart and heal your Pokemon at and defeat the gym, and then you get access to move on to the next wild area or travel, and then you're there, and then the next city and a gym. And it's cool. So these cities and locations have been really memorable for me. There is a kind of farm town, which was cool, and the Pokemon Mart was a outdoor farmers market, which was cool. And it gives the flavor of that. I think one of the more oceanic ones, you could get stuff from a harbor, almost like a fish. I might be making this up, but it's almost like a fish dock kind of thing. And then later on in the game, you get to a city that is much bigger buildings. And one of them is, I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but I'll go ahead and say it while I'm thinking of it. There's an arcade. So an incentive to get there. There's an arcade that has pinball in it. And I don't know if this was in any of the original games, but it's cool that this arcade has 4 pinball machines that you can play, and they all have 4 different Pokemon that go along with them. And the pinball kind of is modeled around the essence of that Pokemon or how they behave. And for one example is there's a Diglett one where there's almost like bowling pins, a sea of Digletts that you have to in a kind of breakout way, hit your Pokeball pinball to hit all of them, and then if you do that without the Pokemon ball landing in between your pinball paddles, then you're successful. But just a cool way to break up the kind of routine in the game, where I think the first 3 gyms are very typical, wild area, gym, wild area, gym, wild area, gym, and then this one in the town has more to do. And then while I'm on that train of thought, I'll keep going. and say that this is a really cool incentive to play this game too. And again, note that I am not a person that played a lot of these originals. So I don't know if this is like really in another Pokemon game or, and I know like Arceus had a little bit of this, but I loved in this game that like you meet these folks that run a conservation center. And of course the team of bad guys has roughed it up or stolen Pokemon, and so that it's empty, but now you have this opportunity to catch Pokemon and then like create a Pokemon zoo. So it has all of these kind of zoo areas that fit the various like habitats of different Pokemon, and then you can donate various types of Pokemon to those areas, and then they will be on display. And I love that because like they have, you catch all these Pokemon and they just like stay in your like box, and then what? Like that, if you're not using them, they're just in that box. So to have a purpose for catching a bunch of ones that you don't really care about, but like could have use somewhere else is really strong. So again, I don't know if this is something that person, the person that made this game decided to do, or if this was something that was already in a game, but like I just love that idea because for me, I'm not a gotta catch 'em all person. I am a like just catch what I catch. If it's new, I'll try to catch it. If I don't catch it, I'm not going to be heartbroken. I am okay, and I will just kind of float through it. But yeah, to have various Pokemon that I don't really think I'm going to use, but like watching various pixel sprites walk around and like interact with the wild area like the zoo area that you cultivate is super cool. So yeah, definitely incentive to like think about playing this one. You eventually get there. Sorry for the spoiler, but I don't think that's too spoilery in regards to structure. It's just kind of saying like this is something that can happen. Yeah, so I will say some specifics. Like I liked how the Pokedex in here like scrolls through like sprite portraits of Pokemon, and it's like the navigation of it is really cool and smooth. May have been something that was on the other games, or original games, but I liked that the visual data was like super easy to use. I liked that it had a very Stardew Valley fishing mechanic. So like if you get your fishing pole eventually and you get to go up to water and try to pull a Pokemon, and it's straight up Stardew Valley fishing mechanic, but horizontal instead of vertical, and it'll let you know whether or not it is something that you've never caught before. So a big question mark where the kind of fish silhouette would be, or if you've caught one, it will just be like that smaller sprite of a Magikarp or whatever squid you are pulling up. And it has, in regards to the Stardew Valley fishing mechanic, an opportunity for you to obtain treasure, just like Stardew Valley, where it has in the kind of wide meter that treasure chest that if you can float over that and float over the fish without it dropping to zero, then you obtain the treasure too. And a lot of times it's like items that you need, like potions or heals, or maybe even like a TM. I think I got from one. So yeah, worth giving fishing a try too. So earlier I had mentioned my Cubone, and he's become my little buddy because I obtained a Cubone that has the Bone Club attack, and then I obtained somehow Thick Club, and I don't know if Lazarus just like throws you a fastball here, or like puts one right over the plate and says, here you go, here's a Cubone, but for me, I ended up with a Cubone with Thick Club, and it has been incredibly overpowered and great because Thick Club, it raises the bone Pokemon attack stat, and the Bone Club is like a heavy attack, or a heavy-ish attack, and boy, it just makes things easy to go to battles, and as long as I can throw that, it just you just watch the health drain of any of the other Pokemon that you are battling against, and not only that, but I was able to it wanted to learn, and now it's a Marowak, and it wanted to learn False Swipe, which is perfect. So it has become my main Pokemon in regards to, getting health down of a Pokemon that I'm pursuing or battling. And if I want to try to catch it, False Swipe is a great move to, it always leaves at least 1 HP. So it doesn't completely knock out a Pokemon and gives you the ability to catch it. So pretty smooth cruising in that regard. There's another feature, and I'm going to add this to the list of things that maybe they were on the originals and I just don't know, but Dex Nav, so your Pokedex navigation, where if you are looking for particular Pokemon, you can only use it on ones that you've already found, but if you're the type of person that wants to find a Pokemon with certain stats and you found one and it will guide you through sound to find another one. As you can tell, I haven't used it a whole lot nor kind of care to, but it's a feature that is in the game. So, yeah. There are certain types of people and players too that I've noticed, I think through playing, I noticed that I'm not naturally prepared in games like this. I'm a very go with the flow kind of person, but just remembering when playing these kinds of games, like I said, I've been playing Octopath Traveler and these kind of RPGs where you have to make sure you heal everything or make sure your party is organized before you start. Just trying to make things easier for myself and being patient with that. I am so quick to just keep running after a battle or keep moving and then get into a battle and realize that my Pokemon's health is at a penny, because of the last battle. And, just those things of remembering to start maybe lower level Pokemon in the lower level areas where I'm not demolishing a low level Pokemon while I'm trying to catch it. So, or like I said, potions and things it's hard to get back into that habit. I'm getting better as the game goes on. In regards to specifics too of my party, I found I really like my Cutie Fly with Draining Kiss. I am one that really likes the plant type Pokemon that kind of take away and then heal themselves. I find those to be really useful. I remember doing that a lot in Sword and Shield. But if you're a Pokemon fan here, you already know that happens. The excitement of capturing a Pichu was super magic. I forget the kind of there's Pokemon that are special to a variety of people for a variety of reasons, and just not expecting it and then it showing up as you get a wild encounter was cool. You almost forget they exist, and then you see one and you're like, whoa. Or an Eevee, of course, is really exciting. So those moments, I think, are really kind of what Pokemon is all about sometimes, and just kind of capturing that magic was cool. And one of my favorite things to do in any Pokemon game is to get that Magikarp, keep it in my party, evolve it to a Gyarados. Magikarp's my favorite Pokemon, and for that reason, for a variety of reasons, but I love the ability to do that. And right at level 20, they evolved into a Gyarados, and get my water dragon on. In regards to my play though, and my feeling of this, and this is probably very clear that this is just in regards to nostalgia and kind of digging this back up in me. It's been really nice to see how important Pokemon is to me and my brain. It's just there. I think it's a part of me from my youth, and it's been cool of how natural it all is to play. And I'm happy that this is a thing and this exists, especially when newer Pokemon games are, now $70-$80 to play the newest iteration and maybe get especially in regards to ZA, it's we have the new battle mechanic essentially, and that's really fleshed out and really cool and new and different and evolving, but other things kind of fall by the wayside. I've heard complaints about how the city feels very empty, and I'm if you're in a city, it should be bustling, but it's just not. And are we pushing the Switch 2 to its potential? Probably not. And, you know, back to that like Pokemon episode of Post Games, like they talk further about like what the implications of selling a Pokemon game are, and really it just has to be good enough to sell. And it's probably not ever, I shouldn't say that. It's probably not, their motive isn't to make like the best game out there. They just kind of, the budget I think is even smaller than it should be to make a game. So all this, I'm getting in the weeds here, but all this to be said, like, still important to me. And it's cool that a bunch of people love and value Pokemon enough, and people value it and know enough to make a game and present it for free that people can play. And people like me that are really appreciative, because it's kind of blooming this part of me that had been dormant for a while. So I'm thankful. It's cool to be really back into it. So as I said before, I have a friend that is a true Pokemon master, or Pokemon trainer, I should say. He said that I have a nice chill party, and I wanted to share with you all, if you are one of those people, what I got going on. And again, four gym badges in, about halfway through the game at this point. So my 6, until recently, where I swapped out to, oh boy, here we go. Here's my cred, or lack of it. Togedemaru, you know, the little like mouse Pokemon, like electric mouse Pokemon. That guy I swapped out for an Umbreon, because I think that was like the most recent addition to my party. So there's one, but my top here are my Marowak, as I mentioned before. I have a Poliwhirl, a Braixen. That's the evolution of my, boy, I gotta say this right. My Fennekin. There it is. I have a Ribombee, which is my evolution of my Cutiefly, Gyarados, and then again the Umbreon. So yeah, pretty I don't know what pretty chill means, but I'm laughing at it because yeah, he's a true player, and I'm one of those guys that just kind of floats through. So it's been fun regardless. So if you're interested, again, check out Your Retro Gamer, Retro Gamer, on YouTube for like setup instructions, and you can get into it for free as long as you have something that can run it. And yeah, that's Pokemon Lazarus this time around. Maybe another episode in the future if I get all of my 8 badges complete. I think this game has more to offer moving forward, and really feels like at this halfway point it's starting to open up, and I'm noticing a little bit more writing, and a little bit more of like what this person making the game wants to say moving forward. So yeah, stoked on it and excited to be back into it, at least for the time being, of course. When I come back, I'm going to take a quick break here, and when I come back, I'm going to talk about other stuff. Thanks so much for listening. Appreciate you. All right, for the other stuff section today, I found it appropriate to continue talking a little further about like Pokemon Horizons. I have been, dipping into it because of this whole all-encompassing trying to maybe elevate my experience with all of this and connect to it all. And just a couple notes on like characters and things in the show. I like that Liko, the main character, she has this kind of like anxious start, and I know that the song kind of hints at the point of the show. They have lyrics that say like, "With you, I'm becoming me," and I like that. I like the kind of blossoming of confidence. It's something that like I think people of my generation could look at and laugh at, and I think I watch it. Being an educator, I watch it thinking of like kids that might be watching it, and, younger people than me. To have that kind of understanding, I think is really nice. Like that's coming from someone who Ash Ketchum could do no wrong. He was like the very best and the most specialist boy. And that was kind of pumped into my existence early, like it's easy to have that kind of main character syndrome. And throughout my life. I think especially in my early 30s, I've been unpacking all of that. And it's just, to think bigger about what's being said in these shows. It's nice to have characters that kind of admit that they're not very confident and are scared, and like going on this adventure might not be something that they naturally want to do, and they're afraid of what's around the corner, and they meeting these strangers, she doesn't necessarily trust them, and there's like really good communication about that in this show. And then there's a character I find really interesting that is, I'm failing on her name, but they're like a shut-in basically, where they're part of this like crew of a ship of adventurers, and she, or they, I should say, like to make, they're like, you uncover that they're like the main feed of this like internet entity that is making these videos about Pokemon training. But while they do that and have all this advice for people, and are a media person or like a content creator, if you will, they don't like to talk to or interact with anyone like in the real world. They will talk, and they talk out of frustration because I think there is so much insecurity, or maybe just they don't have the social vocabulary to try to connect with people in that way. And it's again like interesting what the show is doing, I think, for kids and or for anyone really. It's just a lot to kind of compare the two is really interesting, where not to say like Ash and his crew could do no wrong. They got into plenty of mischief, but it's just a different tone from the early 90s, where everything works out and you're the best and awesomest, most amazing ever, to this main character now that is like very much a part of and recognizes their role in this bigger world, and it's not just about them, but instead about like their heritage, and then growing confidence, and talking to her dad about what she wants out of life, and little things like that I think have been really meaningful in the watch through of that. And I'm excited I know season 3 just came out. I am kind of in the middle to end of season 1, so maybe we'll keep dipping into that and catch up with all of this Pokemon-ness. So that's going to be it for today with this Pokemon Lazarus episode. I hope you enjoyed or got something out of this, or at least get excited about maybe a potential Pokemon game you haven't played. If you're liking the show, please feel free to rate, or if you don't like the show, please feel free to rate. And a rating on Spotify definitely helps visibility. Thank you to those of you that have done so. Thank you to those of you that subscribe and keep up with recent episodes. I just think to be a choice for all of you is really cool. No one has to listen to this, and a lot of you are choosing to, and I think that's super awesome. And I'm thankful. So yeah, if you want to stay in touch or connect, please reach out at Your Friend Who Likes Games on Instagram, or you can find me on Blue Sky. I am there, and we can chat about games of all sorts, because it's my favorite thing to talk about, obviously, or maybe not so obviously. Who knows? But thanks for the indirect conversation. I will talk to you all next time about a different game then, and we'll see what happens. Until then, play all the good stuff, and hope to hear from you. Take care.